Nice.
I wish they would have made a way to make the countdown faster. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing tonight? So, to get right rolling with it, I'd like to introduce Gary Heshdahle. He's the director of Roots Organics. If you're not familiar with Roots or have never tried their lineups before, they stand at the forefront of modern organic cultivation, blending decades of hands-on growing experience with a deep commitment to soil health, sustainability. Under his leadership, Roots has continued to push the boundaries of biologically driven nutrient systems, delivering high performance inputs trusted by growers worldwide, built on a foundation of science, field testing, and real grower feedback. The brand reflects Gary's philosophy that true plant excellence starts from the ground up, where living soil, balanced nutrition, and intention come together to produce exceptional results. So, Gary, man, welcome, brother.
Hey, glad to be back.
Yeah, man. Gary's been with us before. Actually, like this is what your third time now, right? So
two or three now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know how I am, bro. I love the products. You know, I use them. You know, religiously. I've been getting a lot of other guys on, like you know, for years now. Charlie's just recently taken the dip into it.
Nice.
So, you know,
yeah, appreciate the support.
Yeah, we love. You know, I'll never not use it. You know what I mean? Like I always mess around with stuff just to see what's out there. But when it comes to it, the stuff that I'm smoking, I'm doing with the Roots. You know, so
yeah,
you can't beat the.
Yeah, I mean, we're all about the organics, man. I mean, soil health, feeding beneficial microbes, all really important to produce a great final product.
So going with that statement right there, it's actually a perfect lead into one of the first questions I was actually wanting to throw out tonight, because I really want to try to cover, you know, some material. So Roots Organics built its reputation on living soil principles. How do you define a truly alive soil in today's commercial cultivation landscape?
Nice, good question. Yeah, I mean, it starts with microbes. You know, having microbes either sourced from compost, you know, some kind of inoculant, it's really important to feed those microbes. I think all too often in this industry, it's, you know, kind of feeding your plants with Kool-Aid and hoping that your microbes are gonna stick around and give you some benefits. And really, Roots is all about feeding your microbes in your rhizosphere. You know, making sure that those microbes are taken care of, so they're decomposing and breaking down organic nutrition that's actually bioavailable to your plant. So, yeah, I mean, we're all about it here. Almost every product that we make contains beneficial organisms that can be really beneficial to, you know, plant health, overall yield, aroma, terpene quality. You know, there's a lot of aspects that microbes add to with cannabis that you're not going to find in, you know, a bag of salts.
Yeah, you know, the thing that that a lot of people fall away from, and I think is important, is not just focusing on, you know, mycorrhiza, you know, like just not tunnel vision as far as that, is to add, you know, all different stuff, you know, and timing as far as when you're adding your microbials and boosting this and that is paramount as well. You know, it's not just about, you know, yeah, I got it covered, I bought a bag of mycos. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it don't work like that, you know. So,
most growers have enough phosphorus in their grow already, but they just need something to free that stuff out of there. You know, they're putting pH down. They just need something to get it out of there. And I think a lot of the stuff, you know, like you're talking about, the microbial stuff will do that, you know.
Yeah. So Gary, what microbes are you prioritizing in the soils? Like, what is the must-haves in Roots Organic soil?
I mean, bacillus complexes are super helpful. There's the megatherium that's supposed to be helpful for solubilizing phosphorus in particular.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal additive for when right before bloom. I'll pound that in with the bioforce, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a ton of options. I think variability adding a complex array of beneficial microbes instead of just sticking to a single source can be really helpful too. I mean, soil ecosystems vary in their nature, you know, whether you're in ground, whether you're in pots. And I think having biological diversity is really helpful for those plants. Yeah.
As far as now, I know that we've spoken about this before, as far as like, and I've spoken with pretty much almost any guest that has like that microbial knowledge and whatnot. Molasses, the focus on molasses with so many growers, just molasses. What's your take on that? You know,
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think molasses can be a beneficial additive. It's the long chain sugars that come from molasses that are particularly helpful. It's, you know, these microbes have evolved to decompose long chain sugars over short chain sugars. So like table sugar or, you know, just straight glucose. The long chain sugars that you find in molasses are more of what these microbes are looking for. So molasses can also be, you know, beneficial for your plants. There's a couple heavy metals and like micronutrients that you can get from molasses. But I think generally speaking, it tends to be a good one for some of these beneficial microbes just based on what they kind of evolved to eat. What's up, Bob?
I actually, as far as like with the soils and stuff now, I just wanted to say this too. On the East Coast, it's a hell of a lot easier to get roots now, right? You guys,
oh yeah,
the East Coast,
we're making roots back on the East Coast again. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we're actually doing a spring soil promotion right now too. Yeah, so it's been a little while. You know, we used to have a plant in Goshen, New York, and that didn't work out so well. So, you know, we kind of pivoted. Everything was coming from the West Coast for a while. And just this year, we've started production again on the East Coast. And we're really excited to be offering soil that's made on the East Coast. It saves the grower on price because there's way less shipping. Shipping a truckload across the country from Eugene to, you know, like our DC in Pennsylvania, it's like $5,000, and that gets, you know, those costs get added on top of every bag. So the fact that these products are made in the East lowers that freight cost down, and the quality, like we've been doing side-by-side tests, it's virtually identical. So we're super excited to be able to offer East Coast Roots Organics again.
Yeah, and I always say to people, if you don't see it in your grocery store or even like, you know, like nurseries, stuff like that, it's phenomenal for succulents and other kinds of plants and stuff. So if you don't see it, ask a manager, ask an owner, you know, hey, listen, you know, a lot of guys are using this product now, blah, 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 and get their information, get a card, you know what I mean? And we could pass it along to, you know, up the chain to Roots and see if we can get some soil in your areas. Because I know there's a lot of dark spots still, you know. Where
certainly, yeah, I mean, if they don't have it in stock, and they have a Hydrofarm account, they can order it on their next order. You know, it might not be something that everybody's looking for. A lot of stores right now are trying to kind of tighten the waist buckle and get down to brass tacks, and they're only kind of selling what their customers are looking for, and they need feedback. You know, these stores are looking for your feedback. So if it's a product that you're looking for, ask them about it. See what, you know, how long a special order would take. Typically, it's less than a week. You know, especially if they have an order on the dock or something, it could be just a matter of a day or two. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a question from. Yeah. Go ahead.
Timothy's asking: is there certain microbes that you shouldn't be using during flower?
So I think there's a bit of a misnomer there. I think the idea is that these microbes are going to take from your plant more than they're going to give from your plant. I think that's kind of the idea behind soil microbes not being beneficial in flower. I don't think that to be true whatsoever. I think that having a beneficial microbial population is really helpful for getting your plants to be able to be the best that they can be. Those beneficial microbes are going to help break down nutrition that's in your soil, making things more bioavailable to your plants. So I'm going to debunk that one. I think beneficial microbes are actually really helpful. You know, obviously, you know, feeding them the last 2 weeks of flower or something, you're probably not going to notice a ton of benefit. I think that might be The worst thing is that maybe you're wasting them. I would suggest inoculating even up through halfway through flower. After that, I think you're going to notice diminishing returns, but it's not going to be detrimental to your plants by any means.
Gotcha.
Yeah, East Coast.
So here's something like, I know a lot of growers, especially guys that have been around a while using different products, I'm not going to get into them, the names of soils and whatnot, but there's a lot of inconsistency in batches. You'll get 10 bags of, whoever, and you'll notice that, one or two of those bags just really runs way hotter and stuff, and the consistency is just not there, and it's carried on for quite some time with certain companies. They're just, how do you maintain consistency, through batches,
Totally. I think that it's a complex answer, but there's a number of things that we do. So, we've got on-site QA, QC lab technicians that are taking samples of every single batch of soil that we make. They're running testing on it for all kinds of things, microbial content, nutrient analysis. They're doing pH and EC tests. They're literally kind of capturing any kind of variability before it were to make it out to market. So it's not. We have some of the best soil manufacturing machines in the industry, and so variability doesn't really happen very often in our soil manufacturing space. But because we have a lab behind the production of this soil, we're making sure that soil's going out super consistent as best we can.
Yeah. I personally have never had, a bag of soil, and I've used thousands, of your guys' soils, and I don't think I've ever had one where I was like, could say anything, other than, all right, it's the same shit, over and over. You know what I mean? Like that. So I could stand by that and say that, I've used a ton of it, and I've never seen anything wrong with it, and I wouldn't expect anything to be wrong making it on the East Coast now or whatever. It's the same, the same everything.
Yeah, it's the same inputs going in, and even on the East Coast, I mean, it's the same. We have lab technicians that are making tests on every single batch. We have retention samples, so if there is a customer complaint, we can go back and we can test that specific batch going back years.
Really? Wow, that's cool.
I think that's really important for soil to stay consistent. To your point. And customers aren't looking for variability between batches. So we do everything that we can to keep things consistent.
So I'd like to actually shift from the soil a little bit.
Can I just butt in quick?
Yeah, of course. Guys, jump in with questions, please.
Let me just say something to the audience here. If you got, like Bob said, trying to find a place that stocks roots, guys, be your own advocate. If you got a local flower shop, kick the door in and say, listen, I got a connection for you. I'll hook you up with roots, and give Gary's information, his email, and it's only going to help yourself to get them in the local garden shops where you can get it, close to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The what do you call it? And that. Also on the website, Gary, is it aurorainnovation.com or is it rootsorganics.com? I always forget.
So we recently changed it. I think either way you type in, it takes you to the rootsorganics.com website. Yeah, we did a website revamp in the last few months. We've got some updated meeting schedules there. And kind of a new look. I'm pretty ecstatic. It's
I gotta take a peek at it. But you guys still have the store locator? That's what I was gonna actually get at. Is that there's a store locator on the website, guys. You go right on there and throw in your zip code, and it'll find as long as they that they have knowledge of the product being sold, it should be on there, and you could find stuff in your area. It'll let you queue out to like 10, 15, 20 miles or whatever, I think. However it worked, and find any place that's got Roots products in your neighborhood, So
feel free to reach out to me through the contact us tab. We have for questions on products or feeding schedules or anything like that. I'm the one who answers those, so definitely feel free to use that if you've got questions outside of today's interview.
Gary, you got any plans on coming out with a silicate product?
So we've got an idea for a couple of new products right now. The market is in a position where it doesn't really support new products at the moment, but we've definitely got a silica product in mind. We try to keep everything organic here. So making that come to fruition can be a little difficult, but, keep an eye out in the coming years. We'll definitely be coming out with something that's up your alley.
Nice.
Can you talk about what form that might be, like a calcium or monosilicic? Or
I mean, I can't really get into it. There've been some discussions about like product formulation, but I'd rather not get into specifics.
no problem.
Yeah.
Just rest assured that any option that we did choose, it would be certified organic. It can limit your input options at that point, but yeah, I'll leave it there. There's a number of other products that I'd like to get kickstarted as well. We're just kind of waiting for the right opportunity for that to be an option. This year, it's getting soil production in the East Coast going and keeping all the products that we make today running strong. So
nice. So let's jump to the terp teas, man. So I know,
favorite.
Yeah, I love these things, man. You can't beat them, bro. Even the worst grower could literally just use Lush and the minimum amount of terp tea and just crush it. So it's just been such a good teaching aid that I've just fallen in love with it, But so with the terp teas, a lot of people don't understand, they look at the label and they see, this and this and this. What's the secret behind the terp teas besides, what's there? I know because of regs and all that stuff, there's certain things you can't discuss and whatnot, but what makes terp teas different than, other guys that call their lines terp teas and stuff like that? What sets Roots apart on the terp teas?
I think one of the things that sets us apart is using a micronizing process. So realistically, the terp teas are very similar to our Uprising product line. The Uprising product line is a mix of a bunch of different sources of nutrition, like different types of meals and kind of more of a granular option. The terp teas, we take that same kind of mix and we run it through a hammer mill and we essentially pulverize it. We micronize it into fine particles that are much more water soluble. They have a lot more surface area, so they decompose and break down a lot quicker. They're much more bioavailable to the beneficial soil microbes that you find in terp tea, but also that you find in your soil as well. So I think that kind of gives us the boon of availability. The terp teas have some pretty decent NPK numbers. And when you look at organic products, many of them don't achieve the kinds of numbers that we're able to put on the terp teas.
Yeah, that boost has one hell of a number on it for a tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of the micronization process as well as the addition of beneficial microbes in every single batch. And each one of those microbe batches are kind of tailored for different stages of growth. So
now with the terp teas, is brewing like a must? I mean, how important is oxygenation and whatnot and brew time with those teas? I mean,
great question.
Is it a must, or is it just somebody can get away with a mix and a feed?
Definitely no. So it is not a must whatsoever. Those beneficial microbes are going to hydrate if you add them to your topsoil, like you were going to apply a top dress and water over the top. They're still going to hydrate. They're still going to get oxygenated, and they're still going to become alive. I think when you mix them into water and you bubble them, it helps for maybe a little better even distribution within your soil media. But outside of that, if you're in a hurry and you forgot to feed and you got to leave for the weekend and you don't have time to mix a res, I think applying them to your topsoil and watering over the top is totally acceptable. The one issue that you might run into is when you do that, some of it's going to kind of blow away. It is essentially dust, and so you might lose a little bit just from spraying your topsoil. Yeah. I don't think I've gotten away from brewing it more, since I've just gotten into a routine with it. But I'll hit it with with the mud mixer, like the big long mixer, spackle or something, or paint. I just put that in there, do it for a minute. It froths up like crazy.
You know, gets a nice good mix in it, and then boom, I'm right in with it. You know.
Yeah.
So and the one thing I could say is with that stuff is if you've got some particles and whatnot, you know, in the bottom, just right on top of your soil with them. Just get them on. Just don't throw them away.
It's organic. I mean? There's going to be settling. You know, if you don't have a good kind of mixing mechanism or something, there's definitely going to be some settling. But one of my recommendations, like if you're doing it out of a 55-gallon barrel, is have somebody sit there and stir while you're pumping out or something like that. That can be really helpful. There's all kinds of ways that people have introduced mixing pumps into the reservoir to help with settling and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
So with the terp teas, you know, there's a lot of microbials in the terp teas and stuff like that. So there's a lot of debate as far as, you know, microbial shelf life. You know, how do you ensure viability in packaged tea and dry amendments? You know,
So, you know, sourcing is really important. Making sure that you're getting, you know, bacillus complexes and all these other complexes that are not old or have not, you know, that they're properly refrigerated and that kind of thing to maximize shelf life. And then our packaging goes a really long way. We've gone to extreme length to make sure that our packaging is really rip resistant, making sure that you're not introducing warm or humid air into your bag. You know, the more things clump up, the more some of those microbes are going to try to come alive, and then ultimately they're going to desiccate. So having a nice zipper stop seal on the top is going to help keep that product in a dry, you know, micronized state. And that's going to keep those microbes in a dormant state. Our typical shelf life that we have to put on these bags is 2 years, but it's well known that these microbes last a lot longer under good conditions, under good storage conditions. So
I got bags of teas that I pulled out. I had them in a tote. I didn't even know I had them, and they were from 2022, and they're working fine. You know, perfectly fine, bro. Perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. They were just in the dark, you know, just hiding out in the dark. No major heat, and I haven't had an issue yet with them. So. You know, so I always hear people like, oh, there's a date on the bag. I'm like, that's the born on date. I'm like, just like Budweiser. I'm like, that's not the fucking, you know, used by date, you know.
We did recently have to change. We had a born on date. We had to change because of certain restrictions to have an actual expiration date now. So due to certain restrictions, I think in California and Oregon, we had to change it from a born on date to an expiration date. But, you know, those products are going to be good even after the expiration date. If you run into a situation where you bought something that was old, reach out to me, and you know we'll get you squared away for sure.
Yeah, that's 100%. I can tell you that much. You know. So here's one for you. So with everything that you know, every nutrient company has feeding schedules and whatnot. What's your stance on feeding schedule versus reading the plant with organics?
Yeah, I think a combination of both is really the way to go. You know, we've set up these feeding schedules, but they're meant to be played with. You know, this is what we've found to be a good, well-rounded use case scenario for most plants that you would be feeding our products to. But there's definitely situations where, you know, a 12 or you know, 14-week-long cycle from veg to bloom is not what you're after. If anybody's out there for full season veg, you know, you've got to extend those veg weeks for a number of weeks to be able to make it fit in that feeding schedule. So definitely gauging your plants, seeing what they need. If they're starting to yellow and, you know, you're flipping into bloom or something, that's a good indicator that you're going to need more nitrogen. And it's good to get on it early versus, you know, waiting for them to stall out halfway through flower and all you got is yellow leaves. So I think, you know, the feeding schedule will get you most of the way there, but there's definitely certain scenarios where you need to gauge what your plant's telling you.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, if you're not reading your plant, you know, it's like almost one of those first things that you should learn is to, out of every grow, watch, catalog, you know what I mean, and observe, because those observations, I'll walk in my room, and just by the look of the plant, I'll know, oh shit, you know what? They must have popped up a little bit, and I'll notice like the PPFD is off by like 200. Like just silly little shit like that, but it makes a big difference. Like I had osmotic pressure deficit in my plants.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't realize it at first. And then I caught it, and I was like, "Son of a bitch," But the damage was there,
Yeah.
But it was so fast that, like, I was like, one day, they're looking fine, and the next day I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, fucking leaves changed and stuff on, on the cola, and I was like, oh, it was driving me nuts. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, made some changes, and everything went forward. You know what I mean? So observation is, I mean, if you're not learning to read the plant, then something's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you got to learn that part. In my book, I think it's one of the most important parts of growing. Let's see here. So with the lines like the Terp Teas, I know you guys had the Sensei, which has been discontinued. I know you have all the other ones, Buddha Bloom liquids and stuff like that. With those, how are you guys designing the soils around the product? Or are you designing the for that, or is it just basically you guys R&D with different stuff, or is it better off to match up, your teas, your stuff with those soils,
I think the Roots Organics line plays well with others for sure. I mean, if we're talking like chicken and egg, which came first, the soils definitely came first. But I wouldn't say that the nutrient program is necessarily designed just around Roots Organic soils. In developing those products, there was a ton of soils that we have run in the past. I used to run a local grow shop here in town, and one of the things we do is actually owned by the owners of Roots Organics at the time is we do side-by-side tests in the grow room that we had between different brands of soil, nutrients, and even growing methods. We do hydro back when there was a full soil lineup as well. So we could kind of get a good reading of how this product works with others. And so that's a long way to say that the nutrients were not necessarily designed for just our soil. Yeah, it plays well with others. If you're running some other brand of soil, our products are still going to work for you. Maybe give our soil a shot next time around. But Terp Teas or the Buddha Blooms, they're all going to work in your favor.
Yeah, I've used everything in everything. You know what I mean? From it don't matter what it is. I've used in hydro. I've used the Sensei. At one point, I used I've used other guys' stuff in your soils and never had a problem. I ask because a lot of times when people will approach and ask questions like that, you'll tell them and they look at you like you got something wrong with you. It's like, like this shit will work with everything, bro. Like it's why would and you get the second question, well, why would they make all this stuff in the soil? Well, it's called a company. It's, you know what I mean? It's like sure. It's like the questions are such redundancy. So
everybody's got a different use case scenario as well.
Yep.
So a lot of these products can fit certain niche use case scenarios. Like the Terp Tea products, they have an abundance of calcium and magnesium in them, but for some strains, you might run into strains that require a lot more, and that's where our elemental can help supplement calcium and magnesium. For a lot of strains, you might not need it, but for strains that are hungry for calcium and magnesium, having an extra boost like that is definitely helpful. But it's not for everybody. For the most part, Terp Tea Grow and Terp Tea Bloom are a great one-part grow and bloom. They contain all your macros, all the micros that you're going to need to get through a full round of flower. But you might find yourself lacking in some kind of nutrient that some of our additives can be helpful for.
Now with the veg, like you said, with the veg bloom like that. Now, if somebody came and said, "Hey, listen, I want to just run the veg bloom. I'm going to use the soil, blah 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 blah." When would you tell them to stop the veg and stay with the bloom? Because the soil's got plenty of et cetera. But I know some companies want you to run veg up until like the third week of bloom or something like that. Where would you recommend somebody did that? What would be your stop point, your begin point, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, so I typically recommend that customers, depending on the strain, go about 2 to 3 weeks into bloom using half-strength grow and half-strength bloom. So say you're vegging, everything's good. It's time to switch over to bloom. For those weeks on, I would recommend for the first 2 to 3 weeks of bloom, giving a half strength grow and a half strength bloom at that point. Plants are still really hungry for nitrogen in the first few weeks of flower. You're noticing stretching. You're noticing tons of new leaves. Plants need nitrogen for that. For producing buds as well, you're going to need nitrogen. And a lot, I think it's a misnomer out there that you need to cut off all nitrogen during the beginning of flower. Oh, cute pups.
Dog's head is enormous. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a big dog. Bowling ball head. So yeah, first 2 to 3 weeks. If you're running a sativa that really leans sativa, you might go even further into bloom at half strength grow and half strength bloom. Yeah, I mean, these schedules are made to be messed around with for sure.
Yeah, I tweak everything. I put a lot more in of what's recommended. And sometimes I less, but I'm with certain terp teas. I crank on them, because it takes it. Like you'll notice, you can push hard with the terp teas as long if you're paying attention, you can really crank on them. Like I'll add terp tea, a bloom booster at like week 6, and and I'm not talking like the beginning of week 6, like towards the end of week 6, I'll hit it with a fat dose of booster, and just let it crank through till the end, and they love it. You know what I mean? They absolutely love it, and you don't see it in the flower, nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, you can really get on these terp teas, man. Like they're
it's hard to burn. I mean, you'd have to really try to burn your plants with these products to do so. We've got no chemical additives to it whatsoever. So it's all between, you, your plants, and your microbes, how fast those nutrients are going to deliver.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw some of my my funner questions out here. I call them, get away from it. So what was your first grow like, if you can remember it? Honesty, of course. Was it a masterpiece or a disaster?
Yeah, I think it was somewhere in between. So I went to college at the University of Oregon here in Eugene, and I funded my first grow with the financial aid that I got for that or whatever.
They give you back that little bit.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I used to love that check, bro.
I think I get like $3,500 a quarter,
I was gonna say,
something like that.
$3,200 a quarter. Yep.
That was to pay for my rent. That was to pay for. I'm still paying my college student loans back right now, but it was to pay for rent, pay for your food, pay for all your bills, kind of thing. And I used some of it to construct my first grow. I got a 600 watt high pressure sodium lamp. Back in the single ended days. This was like back in 2008. My first own my grow. I grew up with my father growing, all throughout my childhood. But my own first grow, 600 watt HPS. We made a 4x4 by 6 foot tall box in my bedroom. There was a window right there that we could kind of use. We ended up drilling a hole through the roof and installing an exhaust vent.
Your fucking landlord must have loved you, bro.
Oh, they didn't know. We patched it back up with drywall afterward. When I drive by, I can still see the exhaust vent. They probably wonder, hey, where did that thing come from?
Yeah, they're probably like, what the fuck is this? We don't have a washing machine or a dryer over there.
But I mean, realistically, I think we did pretty well the first time around. I mean, yield was maybe to be wanted, but I think we did pretty good our first round. That developed into 2 600 watt cool tubes. I don't know if you guys remember the cool tubes from back in the day. I made a 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall, 8 foot long box, and that was the next round. We did a screen of green, and that one actually crushed it too.
You threw the bed away you had to throw the bed away or something to get that fucking thing in there.
It was by that time I had moved. It was a new house, and we had a little room. But it was in my roommate's bedroom at that time. It took up a whole bunch of space in his room.
You learned a lesson stubbing your toe in the middle of the night a few times, probably.
Yeah, totally.
So, So here's one. So if plants could talk, what do you think cannabis complains about the most about the growers?
Oh man, I don't want to disparage anybody. It's growers are known for
No,
knowing
you're
what
the
they
cannabis
want.
plant. You're not the person. You're the plant. So it's all right.
That's a great question. I think the plant would think.
Stop coming in the room so goddamn much.
Yeah, stop looking at me so much. You got that look in your eye, man.
Yeah.
So here's one. I know because you've been around for a minute. So and this one is one that. So what's one bro science tip you've heard from somebody in your years that just made you shake your head and like just walk away? Like it was just one of those.
Bro science.
Oh, that's
There's
a
so
really
many I've heard.
question. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I remember I met this grower who told me, he didn't want to buy like a compost tea, whatever. His go-to was to just take off his sock and throw whatever he had in his
Put the sock back on.
throw it in the reservoir. It was absolutely disgusting. He swore by it.
Oh
But,
my god! Put the sock.
maybe
right
there's some like
back on.
lactobacillus like in his socks or something.
There's something in that shit. I'll tell you.
Aided
that
in the
much
brew
for sure.
process. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not willing to try it though.
Pour a little
Yeah.
little milk and rice in there before you go to work, and then come home when you're all set with the lab.
There you go.
Yeah, basically, right? So here's one. So if you could only grow one strain for the rest of your life, what would it be? And
Ooh.
why? And why?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think there's a couple. There was a strain that I got back in the day when I had first started growing that I have since lost, and I'd love to get it back. I don't think I'll be able to get it back. I got these seeds at the time through a seed swap on the cannabis culture forums back in the day. I don't know if any of you ran through the Mark Emery forums. It was actually a really great place. I had a ton of photos on there of my like 4x4 by 8 foot box I was telling you guys about earlier. I'm sorry. What was the question again? Tell me one more time. I got sidetracked.
Pack of seeds that you popped. Your favorite pack.
Oh yeah. So it was called the ChemDog D08, and it was a cross of the ChemDog D with a Larry Sour OG Kush, and it just had the most gassy nose on it of anything that I've since come across, and I'm really bummed that I lost it. It was the kind of plant where every single bud on the plant when you grew it was trimmable. Like there wasn't a bunch of like bee buds or anything like that. Almost everything like went into the bag, and I really missed that strain. I think it was
insane.
I think it was from, and I don't think it's the same Elite Genetics, but I think at the time there was a company called Elite Genetics that it came from, and I think the guy had since been busted or something. I think now there may be a new guy that goes under the Elite Genetics name. I'm not sure if they're actually affiliated or not, but shout out if it's the same guy. It was a phenomenal strain. That or closely related strain was the Bubba that I had at one point. Similar in that like every single bud that the plant grew was like a bag worthy bud. But just the nose on that plant was phenomenal. Shout out to Blue City Diesel as well. I loved that strain back in the day. The THC percentage on it was not super duper high. I think we only ever clocked in at like 17% on it, but the terpene profile was like out of this world. It was like grapefruit, sour. It was like a sour D cross from the original Soma sour D stuff. So, that was a great one. Yeah, I think it also made pink pistils, if I recall correctly, for outdoor grows. When it was outside and like had cold nights, the pistils would turn pink. Great strain.
Nice.
I could go on and on, but the ChemDog D08, I still miss that one to this day.
I bet you if those guys are still around, if somebody I bet there's always something. Somebody pops up with something, you know what I mean? It might be something that can be found again, Elite, for some strange reason, Elite sounds familiar to me, like that it's around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could swear I've seen that name recently, you know. So
Yeah.
So we're gonna switch back a little bit to some product stuff. So I want to go over the microbial since we were talking about them earlier and whatnot, you know. So for people who don't know, your two main ones is the Bioforce and the Organism XL. I don't have the XL out. It was underneath something. I couldn't get to it fast enough before. So Bioforce.
Yeah.
What's it about? If you had a grower on here right now that was, you know, looking at this on the shelf and you walked over to him, what would be the, you know, what it's used for, etc.
Yeah, so Bioforce is a complex of a ton of different beneficial microbes that's like the professional take on the Organism XL. Higher CFU rates, colony forming units per gram. So there's more beneficial microbes than are in there. It focuses a lot on the Megatherium. Megatherium, we talked about just a little bit earlier. It solubilizes phosphorus a lot better than water will do by itself. So it's going to take phosphorus that's in your soil and unlock it, making it bioavailable for your plants. This is a great product for customers that might be working with, products that aren't roots organics. A ton of our products like Terp Teas have a ton of these same beneficial microorganisms. But if you're running another soil brand, most other soil brands out there aren't adding beneficial microbes to their soil. And so it's really helpful to inoculate early on and to regularly do it, every 2 to 4 weeks is what I would recommend. So it's going to help kind of rejuvenate old soil at the same time. If you're running like an outdoor grow and you're trying to reuse old soil, this is going to help bring new life to that old soil. These beneficial organisms help kind of keep, they outcompete negative microorganisms like Fusarium or any of these other like root rot related issues. It's going to help compete for those spaces where Fusarium or anything like that might try to take over in your rhizosphere. Yeah. So definitely a great product for adding beneficial life to your root zone.
Yeah, I like, like I said, I've been using it forever, and it's probably one of the whenever I use this, especially with the octopods, after pounding it in, pounding in the XL for the veg and whatnot, I always switch to this around bloom, and start really pushing it. But within a matter of 10, 12 days, 14 days, you'll start seeing, like the outside of the bag, the colonies start popping up on the outside of the bags and whatnot, and that's my sign that everything's really starting to kick into gear. Whenever I put it in there and start seeing that, and it's always, every time, doesn't matter. You'll always see it. And I at first was like, what the hell is it? And scraped some of it off and gave it to a buddy of mine, and he was like, it's just all fucking bacteria. You know what I mean? Because I never with the bags like that, I never seen it like really deep on it, and I was like, what the hell is going on at first? It didn't dawn on me, and so I scraped it off, and he brought it to to work with him, and he hit me up, and he's like, there's all sorts of shit in here, and I was like, that's what that is, huh? And it was insane. But every time now on the octopods, you see, once you start pounding stuff in, you see the little bundles of it all around it, So
no snake oil for sure. I mean, it's going to help your plants grow roots faster as well. If you're trying to colonize, a specific size pot, it's going to get you there a significant amount faster than if you were to not inoculate. So, I mean, it's just going to help with the pace at which your plants are growing and getting them up to a place where they're ready to flip. The bloom stage is all about the veg stage. If you had a great veg stage, you're setting yourself up for a great bloom. Conversely, if you had a poor quality veg and your plants are growing slowly, you're not gonna have a great time once it comes to bloom. You want to have those roots and those plants kind of pumped and psyched and ready to go. Bioforce is going to help the root system get to where it needs to be before you flip the bloom.
Yeah.
No.
I always just punch into that cell. I'm always just, whatever reason, my brain just does it like that. You know what I mean? Because the Megatarum thing, I'm always like, that's why I load it up right at the bloom, because, to get that, start pushing that phosphorus out. You know what I mean? So, and then it takes time for it to, colonize out and stuff. So that's why my head was going that way all the time, which works great, but I, now I'm going to start to put it in earlier to see, the differences in it. I actually never used it early because, everything's already in the other one. You know what I mean? Just not as much.
Yeah.
So speaking with we touched on it before with the terp teas and the uprising. You were saying that the ones micronized faster breakdown, brewed, top dressed and whatnot, and the uprisings, of course, are slower release and whatnot. Would you would you say that one's more for like you can use that more for like building a soil? Like if you wanted to build a soil from the ground up and bought the guano and then this and that, would you recommend it more for that or more for the top feeding and whatnot?
I think both use case scenarios make a lot of sense. I think if you're rejuvenating old soil or you're trying to create new soil from fresh ingredients, the Uprising series is a great way to go. When you're making soil, you don't necessarily need it micronized. Having slow release particles in that soil can be helpful versus everything being available all at once. You can definitely kill your plants with kindness, and that's why I'd recommend using the Uprising for rejuvenating old soil over the terp teas. You could make it work with the terp teas, but I just don't think it would be quite as efficient. You might run through that food a lot quicker with if you were trying to revamp the soil with terp teas versus using Uprising, just because all that nutrition would be available a lot faster. For top dress, I still think Uprising is the way to go, just because it kind of maintains its consistency, its composure, versus terp teas as a top dress. It's totally applicable. It's just if you top dress the terp teas, excuse me, and try to water over the top, you're going to notice that half of it kind of sprays everywhere. It kind of comes back into a dust form and kind of goes all over the place. And now for row crops, that's totally fine. All the soil is fair game there. But if you're in a single pot or something like that, it makes more sense to do top dressing, in my opinion, with the Uprising.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who use the Uprising in that they'll start their plants, throw down this, that, and the other thing, and just water it, microbials and whatnot. So I've never really messed with the Uprising a lot. I'm not really super versed on it, but it's something that I've been looking to mess with because I want to build the soil, again soon, just to do it, as far as like a lesson thing. So I've been looking at those to try, but I haven't pulled the trigger on them yet. But now that I got a little bit better of an understanding from it, I think I'm going to, because it sounds like almost like something like that you could do if you have the right mix of it and whatnot. Let's say how many different Uprisings are there, Gary?
There's three.
There's
three.
Okay.
So there's a grow, foundation, and a bloom. And essentially,
and the foundation is. What's the
foundation is like the more micro components of the entire situation. So they're going to provide a lot of the micronutrition that you don't see in the grow or the bloom. But that being said, like all of those products, it's like the ingredients that we put into the soil in the first place. The products that are raw material ingredients that are in Uprising are the nutrient package that we put in the soil to begin with. So I think it's a perfect use case scenario for, your plants are gobbling that stuff up. And when it's time to re-amend that soil for like an outdoor bed, you're putting back in exactly what the plants took out. So I think that's why the Uprising makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the Uprising, see, like a lot of people are on like the crop salts and stuff like that, the granular where you just put it in, water it, and blah, blah, blah. I could see, that being another case of something where you just set your soil with it and roll, you know what I mean, in a way, that would be.
Is that something that you can re-amend? Say if you got pots from last year, 50 gallons, can you just re-amend the soil with Uprising?
Most definitely. We typically recommend, I think it's like I'd have to double check the dose rate, but I think we recommend like a quarter cup of the grow, the foundation, and the bloom for every. It's either 10 or 20 gallons of soil. I'd have to double check on it, but to kind of rejuvenate it and get it back to, as close to original condition as when you got it.
I got another one for you, Gary. Ty was asking before. I know we touched on it before, but with the turf teas, when you're top dressing versus brewing a tea, is there a time? I don't think we put a number on it. Is there when it's obviously brewing a tea, it's pretty much readily available. But with the top dressing, is there a time frame? How long it takes to be available? Or
I'd say it's not a whole bunch behind brewing, to tell you the truth. I mean, essentially, those microbes are kind of brewing in your soil once you water them in. So if you're top dressing, it might just take a matter of 12 hours longer for them to become fully hydrated, come out of any kind of hibernation that those beneficial microbes might have been in, and then be trying to, colonize your root system. So I don't think that there's a huge difference in like availability timing if you were to top dress versus water in. I think you just get a little more even distribution when you mix it into liquid versus top dressing it. Everything is well mixed at that point versus the top dress. Maybe what's getting down to the bottom isn't quite as concentrated as what's up at the top. Yeah.
Now with stuff with the liquid lines and whatnot, like Buddha Bloom and whatnot, are they made to? Because I'm all the names, I call them something different. I'm like the green one to this one, so I never remember the names. But are they're designed to just, like if you just wanted to use, let's say, Buddha Bloom, to give it a push, they're standalone, no problems interacting, with anything else that you're using?
Yeah, so I'd say they're pretty decently a one-part solution. In the flowering phase, I always recommend a CalMag. Like you can get by with the Roots Organics Buddha Bloom, but to really push them, I think the addition of a CalMag is really helpful. There's calcium and magnesium in the Buddha Bloom, but a lot of strains just need a little bit more. And so if you're growing indicas or autoflowers or something like that, I think that the Buddha Bloom by itself would be perfectly fine for that kind of scenario. But if you're growing anything that's kind of more modern and indica sativa hybrids or anything like that, it's helpful to have at least one additional supplement on top of the Buddha Bloom. CalMag in particular being what I'd recommend.
Yeah, I look at it with if you're growing, in soil and stuff like that, hitting it with CalMag at certain, like I call them key points, is just completely advantageous to the outcome. You know what I mean? It's like people fall away from using it, thinking that it's because it's become a joke of an amendment, or whatever you want to call it, to a lot of people. You see them, CalMag, and half the people that say, CalMag, don't even realize that their plants are fucked up with not enough CalMag. You know what I mean? They'll throw up a picture, what's wrong with my plants, and the day before you'll see them in somebody else's comments, oh, it needs CalMag. And the same idiot the next day is like, hey, what's wrong with my plants? Go back a day, to Jimmy's thing and what you said. That's what's wrong with your plants. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things where if you add it, if you're not crazy with it, it's not going to hurt anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those things that it's not gonna go by the wayside. The plant's going to find it and use it. Calcium's used in more processes than anybody even understands in the plant. You know what I mean? And calcium is really helpful for keeping your plants green. Actually, it's really necessary. There's a specific ratio of calcium to nitrogen that's really helpful for keeping your plants green. So, and magnesium, the center of a chlorophyll molecule, the center of it is a magnesium ion, and so having those two pieces in play in adequate quantities is really helpful for keeping your plants boosted through the flowering phase. And not only that, but our CalMag is one of the only liquid CalMags out there that is registered organic. Most folks, when they're talking CalMag, they're thinking calcium nitrate and magnesium nitrate, or some variation of a chemical alternative to natural sources of calcium and magnesium.
Can that
that we
CalMag be added to synthetic nutrients, or does it have to be added as a separate feeding?
I think that's going to depend on the nutrients. Our CalMag plays really well with others, but calcium has a tendency to bind to phosphorus. So the phosphoric acid, based supplements might have an issue with lockout. And so it may be better in some scenarios to water our CalMag in if you're running chemical nutrients on an alternate watering day where you're not mixing it with those chemical salts.
Yep.
But yeah, they can totally be used in the same soil media. I just maybe do kind of a precautionary mix and check it out. See if you have stuff falling out of solution. They call it precipitants falling out of solution. Yeah.
The somebody had asked before, actually, with that, and you were talking about keeping the plants green, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of factor does iron have in your teas and whatnot?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a good amount of iron in our product. Iron is something that it's pretty uncommon to have deficiencies of. I wouldn't say it's like the main aspect of any one of our products, but you find a little bit of iron in just about every one of the products that we do make. So
that answers that one. There's been a lot of discussion, on the show with different companies and whatnot, as far as the iron, being important in the greening of the leaves and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's where the question comes from, is it in there? Because I know personally, you can see in the leaves when there's a nice amount of iron, you get that color. You know what I mean? That with me and you, I've talked to you about it. That you get that like megafauna color in the leaves. You know what I mean? That bluish green. That's when I always know. I always say when the plant's kicking in and it's fucking really rooting hard and everything's working good, you'll see the leaf color change. You know what I mean? Using good soils and stuff. So I think that's
if you're running into iron issues, our foundation is a good source of iron. If you're looking for like a one recommendation answer for like a product, our foundation top dress would probably be what I recommend.
Shit, I just lost my questions. Hold on. Sorry. Damn, I just lost my question sheet. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I write them. I make sure I have them written down, dude, or I'm lost. I forget my name if it wasn't tattooed on my underwear. So here's one for you. So when you walk into a garden, what are the first three things you're instinctively looking for? And it's just good practice, let's say that, for somebody. Yeah,
certainly. Well, I'd say not a ton of leaves all over the ground would be a great first step. With all the defoliation techniques that are out there these days, you frequently run into people that are like leaving dead, decaying matter like all over the ground. I'd say that's something you definitely don't want. Condensation is another. Having condensation on any of your equipment, whether it be intake or exhaust fans or anything like that, anywhere that dripping can occur, not going to be helpful. And then having, good VPD, a good kind of ratio of temperature to humidity. I think all too often folks think that, humidity needs to be as low as it can go, and that is not actually beneficial for your plants. It's really helpful to have some humidity in the room. It slows the transpiration rate and kind of allows the plant to not get overly exhausted.
And that's especially with different kinds of lights, using like better spectrums, the old CMHs, HI, all that stuff and whatnot. If you're using high potency lighting, you need to make sure your plants have moisture a lot later, more moisture. Like me, I'm using, a beast of lights, with that, the phytogenic spectrums, it's basically like the same spectrum as the old, the old sodiums and stuff,
Yeah.
So like I'm deep in the bloom. I'm in like week 7 of bloom, and I'm still running at like 82 degrees. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way, with the hydro, everything like that. It's the best functioning point I've found, as far
yeah.
as being. And I'm running my humidity at like 55% still, 60% on some days. If it bumps up a little bit, if it's at like 84, because the weather's turning right now, it bumps up. I'll tweak my humidity up into the like 60%, 65% at some points. So people don't realize that just because it's said, hey, listen, start backing down your humidity and stuff like that. No, it's not the way it works, man. You have to, VPD is VPD. The way the plant reacts to temperature, to this and that, it's you can't break it. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And if you're not having if your plant ain't transpiring right or too fast or whatnot, if you ain't got it in that Goldilocks zone, I like to call it, is you'll notice, you'll see, the plant just will kind of putter out a little bit in my eyes, kind of just loses its gusto,
I think the best grows have situations where they can control environmental factors both ways. So a lot of people think it's counterintuitive that you should have a dehumidifier and a humidifier. Like, some people think you're crazy, but it's actually, for commercial cannabis grows, it's the best way to go to make sure that you can keep your humidity in the ideal range. Otherwise, you're at the whim of Mother Nature, and when it's cold outside, cold air coming inside is going to be humidity deplete, and so you're just going to be running low humidity, knocking your whole VPD ratio out of whack, and your plants aren't going to like it very much. So, I mean, that's a big one to see that, if a grow is kind of got everything dialed, or if they're just kind of, spinning their wheels.
Yeah. I mean, would you say this actually was leewayed into what I was going to follow up with? So would you say that RH, as far as environmental factors, is something that a lot of growers are underestimating?
I think so. I think people just get scared of bud rot, and so they see a 55 or 60% humidity, and they think that the world's going to end, and that they need to get it down to 30 or 35. And maybe if you were growing at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 35% humidity would be okay. But we're not. We're growing at 75, 80, 82, the warmer temperatures.
I run at
more humidity.
I run at 85 pretty much all the way through from, in veg until, I'd have to say like week 4 into bloom. Pretty much I'm pushing 85 normally, like 84. Right in there, it'll tickle up a little bit, you know what I mean, and whatnot. But for the most part, but I got CO2, everything like that, so I can get, you can get away with.
You can go a little bit higher because of that. Yep.
I think, and I think that people, if they took this mentality, would see a better result. That higher, for whatever reason, that higher temperature, that higher RH. Getting that CO2 and stuff in there, I've noticed tremendously that that first 4 weeks of bloom is way different than if I was running, in my tent at 78, and blah, 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 really keeping my RH as, tuned down as I can because it's a tent, and whatnot. Yeah. I think people really underestimate that, those numbers, man, and I for one am glad that I started, getting into the, different lights and the CO2 and stuff again, because it just makes a result that's, you can't beat it, dude. The plant just fucking flies, you know what I mean? It's just, it's literally, it's like having a different work crew constantly ready to go. The second, like a hockey line, you know what I mean? They get tired, new lines, you know what I mean? Like literally. It's the growth rate on the plants is fucking insane, So, but shit, I closed it again. Hold on, here we go. I'm the worst.
Keep smoking that shit.
I actually haven't even smoked any reefer, dude.
Wow.
No, I haven't. I actually fucking ran out of reefer today. One
no.
Can you take a hit?
What, a reefer? That was a cigarette, you fucking wiener.
Like that? You hide?
Yeah, the other last week, I forgot what week it was when we did the show. They pulled it right away, and they said they gave an excuse for it, but now I'm worried about cigarettes and shit. Like I'm sitting here like this with a cigarette, you know.
Oh, I'm sitting there burning the bowl.
Oh yeah, you can listen, you know, do what you want, but I'm trying to, you know, I have to. That it messed me up, man. You know what I mean? Because it was I'll show you the thing. It was literally for, you know, for the smoking.
I thought you took it.
Listen to your doctor, man. I mean, I had a buddy who's I think he's like 43 or 44. He just had a heart attack. We were out playing a game of disc golf, and
oh, real stressful.
yeah, it was kind of like an up and down round. He had just hit like a really killer birdie, and then he had a real bad drive. Anyway, he had a heart attack. I thought he was just low blood sugar or something. I had my wife give him a ride home. Me and my buddy kept playing the disc golf round. Turns out he went to the hospital, and you know, he had a heart attack, and that was one of the big things that they recommended was to cut down on his smoking. So he's been all about like vaping or edibles lately. So
yeah,
more power to him.
Listen, I look at it. I mean, I've had two small ones. You know, two small heart attacks, and you know, I look at it like, you know, once I start. I did this last time when the fucking doctor told me. I started going to, you know, eating greens, shit, and you know, healthy stuff. My body literally hated it. It was just like, yeah, what are you doing? You know, like, you know, it was just like, it shocked my system. You know, so I went on, and the crazy part is that I started it to start losing weight. You know what I mean? Because I was like 310 pounds. So I'm like, let me see how this works. You know, no weight fell off at all, bro. It was like I was eating like a friggin' rabbit. You know, nothing came off. I switched to straight just meat, steaks, fucking, you know, protein, eggs, and 100 pounds like that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but I think now, you know, it's showing, you know, like that. It's not even moderation because I eat a lot of chicken and turkey and stuff like that. It's just that I think too much protein and the trans fats, shit like that, really start to
cholesterol.
Yeah, they really do something. Yeah, bro, I eat bacon. I'll eat a dozen egg whites and a pound of bacon. You know, literally every day if I could. You know what I mean? Like that's no problem. You know, it's my go-to. You know, I don't like food. I'm like, I hate most food. You know, it's like literally, if I could, I don't think I can name 15 things that I eat. You know, as far as like, you know, like meal stuff. You know, it's literally some kind of meat, potatoes, breakfast, egg whites. You know, turkey, not even turkey bacon. What am I? Turkey, like I'll get turkey, you know, sliced turkey, and bacon, and then there's really not much else I eat, bro. Everything
out of a 5-year-old.
Yeah, I'm like a fucking little kid.
We got to tell Gary about that diner around the block from the warehouse in Pennsylvania. If you ever visiting out that way, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, bro, yo, that diner, dude, yo, over in Pennsylvania where they have the Hydrofarm headquarters. Like maybe like a 3-minute ride from there. There's this little rickety old diner, bro. Like it literally walk in there. It's from the 9th. They probably last time they redecorated the thing was like the early 80s. You could tell, you know. But the countertop, the seats, and everything like that, 50s, 40s. You know what I mean? The vibe.
Yeah,
like they, you know, they still got the old crank handle, you know, soda jets and stuff. You know, and man. They give you a spread for like cheap as shit, bro. You know, I went to a diner in my neighborhood and ordered. I got 10 egg whites, the bacon that comes with it, you know, and then I ordered a side of bacon with a side of toast. It was like fucking. They came over. It was like $33. I'm like, the lady's like, oh, there's a per egg charge for waste, and I'm like, so if I buy the whole egg, it's fine. But if I get the egg white, you're going to charge me to throw away the fucking yolk. I'm like, that's what you're telling me, you know? And that's what they were telling. So you can see where they're cooking. They got a thing like this, the fucking just yolks, you know, and the guy's sitting there like this, dude, dropping the yolk in this thing. Wow. Egg white on the grill. And I'm like, so why am I getting charged for egg disposal fees? You know what I mean? Like, are you kidding me? So every egg white came out to $3 and change. I was like, holy shit. It was literally like that. The side of bacon was like $5, you know, But every egg white they charge me $3 and change for, and I'm like, I've never heard of anything like this before. A fucking egg disposal fee.
I think we
You
paid
know?
like $9 in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah,
$9
bro.
for all that shit.
I think our breakfast, we got the 2 breakfasts for under $20. That was with coffee, juice, the whole 9.
And
You
you
know?
couldn't
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Oh, it was so much food, bro. Oh, you would love it, man. If you ever get over there, Gary, you're gonna have to go and check this place out.
Oh,
bro.
yeah, next time I'm out there, most definitely.
How often have you been out here recently, or?
No, I haven't been out to the. I'm planning on doing some trips to the East Coast here in the summer, but
Nice.
at this point, the last time I was out in the East Coast was last fall.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yep.
Were you heading out into New York at all?
I do plan on it. Actually, there was a store, Buffalo Roots, that just reached out. They're doing a customer appreciation day in August. I think it's like August 27th, if I remember right. It's either the 27th or the 29th. So I'll probably be going out there for that, for sure.
Nice.
I know it's on the other side of the state for you, but maybe we can make it work, and I can visit you for a day or something.
Yeah, it's not that. I don't.
Down Brooklyn.
Charlie, what is Buffalo like? What, like 5 hours from us? From Brooklyn, probably.
Yeah, probably something like that. It depends on the time of day we leave.
Yeah, it's not
I'd
that
probably
bad.
make a week out of it and kind of, do the state of New York kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of places that that would be perfect to hit. You know what I mean? Especially just to pop in there, because like we said, there's a lot of stores that aren't carrying Roots. You know what I mean?
Rochester.
Yeah. No, we're trying to make it more available. Having the production on the East Coast, I think is going to help. We're at this point like super duper price competitive when it comes to other brands of soil. So, and you get the added benefit of a CDFA, certified organic stamp on those bags. All the inputs that we use are super high quality. So, while we're like cost competitive, we're like competing with brands that don't compete to our level at the same time. So I think it's like a win-win for us.
Well, you guys have a lot of your inputs are really highly controlled and sourced from the same thing constantly, right? Like you guys have like peat bogs, like we've talked about this before.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have a bunch like back caves that you specifically go to, right?
Our sister company, Aurora Peat Products, it's based up in Edmonton, Alberta, and that's where we get our peat moss from. So back in the day, before Hydrofarm acquired Roots Organics in 2021, the previous owners had purchased Alaska Peat Products. They changed the name to Aurora Peat Products, kind of kept the same, APP moniker. But we found that their peat moss tends to be the best that we've been able to find. We've got huge tracts of boglands in Canada. We use sustainable harvesting methods. This year, we're actually going for the Veriflora Sustainable Certified Peat Bog certification. It's like international peat bog certification that kind of shows that you take care of your workers, that you take care of your bogs, that that there's very little in the way of any kind of environmental damage, that there's all kinds of remediation efforts and that kind of thing. So but yeah, I mean, as far as ingredients, our search across the globe has yielded us some really great opportunities, and we continue to use those same sources to this day. We haven't changed any of our recipes unless it came to like a regulatory thing where we had to change a label or something like that. Like the Roots original recipe is the same that it's been for at least the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been using the soil since before Hydrofarm took over, you know what I mean? Like, and whatnot. So I haven't seen really any changes in any
Yeah,
kind
we still
of.
have all the same guys working here that are making it from pre-acquisition. So these guys are the experts in soil manufacturing. They know what they're doing, and we've still got the old heads that have been making the product since back in the day.
We have a guy, one of the watchers that is as far as feed charts for the turp teas and whatnot. Are they on the site?
They are, yeah. To get to it, the button's in kind of a weird spot. It's just down at the bottom of the page. There's a feeding schedule button.
What is the website, Gary? Again, it's the new
RootsOrganics.com.
Roots Organics.
Now, is that a feeding chart for all the products in one, Gary?
So yeah, we've got multiple feeding charts. We've still got our master feeding schedule up. We've got our standard liquid roots organics feeding schedule. We have a dry nutrient that's like we call it the tank dry nutrient, but it's like basically like a liquid dry nutrient, like using the terp teas. And then we have an actual dry nutrient top dress feeding schedule as well on there. And if you're in like a specific scenario where you need a new feeding schedule made, like feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to try to help, cater a feeding schedule that works for you and your plants.
Yeah.
So down at the very bottom there, the feeding schedule button, right there in the middle. Yeah.
So that's where you would go, guys, and then cannabis.
Yeah. Right? Just go down a little bit more. Oh, yeah.
Oh, did I go back? All right, hold on.
I thought you were trying to get to the actual feeding schedules. If you go,
no, that's fine.
Yep, so it'll show you the actual feeding schedules there. Yep.
All right.
Those are just clickable links.
Dry nutrient would be the terp teas, Gary?
No, it's actually the tank dry nutrient.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yep.
So here you go, guys. So if you see this on the screen, this is all the terp teas, the bioforce. Oh, you know what? Let's get into some real quick before we get off, Gary, because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this stuff. I am very familiar with Rain, Extreme Serene, Ancient Amber, and whatnot. Can we go through them real quick and just kind of throw them out there? Rain, if you could describe it, in a nutshell, what it's for and whatnot, and the benefits of it.
Yeah, Rain, it is a certified organic wetting agent. So, all too often we've noticed growers having issues over the course of time, especially with like old soil or used soil that they've run previously that, they let it dry out a time or two and it doesn't like to accept water. It doesn't, all your water kind of goes off to the side, goes down, as runoff, and your soil doesn't really get penetrated by the liquid. Rain is going to help with that. It's full of a bunch of yucca and kalea that are natural organic wetting agents. There's no like added water to this product. It is simply yucca and kalea. So
it's a great foliar, also like a great wetting agent for foliar as well.
Yeah, for spreading. Like you could use it for applying, IPM. Or if you're trying to add a kelp product to it to do some kind of foliar feeding, it's a great organic method for being like a spreading agent for foliar sprays as well. But water it in on a regular basis. You don't even have to use it that often necessarily. Like water it in every 2 to 4 weeks, I would say, is a really great way to keep that soil media accepting water and not dehydrating unnecessarily fast.
Yeah, I use it. Like in the beginning when like I've noticed with like stuff like peat, stuff with a lot of peat and this and that. Yeah. I noticed in the beginning you get like a little that quick run through. You know what I mean? Like So I've gotten into it where I feed in the Rain into especially stuff with that's I call it like fluffier, and. But after you get one feeding into it, you'll start to see the changeover quick. As far as the plant starting to absorb more. It's phenomenal stuff. It's one of
the only organic wetting agents that's out there.
Really? Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Like a yucca wetting agent will, if you mix it in your water before you mix your synthetic nutrients, it'll hold them in suspension and keep them from. Falling out of solution and binding to the other ones.
Yeah. So the next one, Extreme Serene. Where does it fall into play? What it's about?
Yeah. This one we mostly recommend as a foliar feed, but it's definitely something that you could add in as a liquid to any program as well. It's a bunch of kelp. Actually multiple different kinds of kelp. There's some other additives in there as well that basically help with micronutrition. There's not a whole bunch of the way of like nitrogen or phosphorus in here. There is some potassium available because of the kelp extract. But this is like a micronized kelp that is super bioavailable. We find that it works best when you do a foliar spray, especially during like the vegetative stage or super early flowering. We don't really recommend doing foliar sprays past like 2 weeks into flower as it is. So it's a really great addition to any program. What was that?
Are there humics and fulvics mixed in with that as well?
We don't add any humics or fulvics along with it, but there's some saponins in there that that act as a wetting agent that kind of help kind of spread the product as well. So, you could definitely use it with fulvic acid products like our Ancient Amber or Full Power or something like that. It could definitely be a beneficial additive along with the Extreme Serene, but there's no additional wetting agent necessary when you do foliar spray with Extreme Serene.
And the last one being the Ancient Amber. What do we got going on there?
Yeah, so that it plays really nicely with other nutrient lines. That is our fulvic acid supplement for the Roots Organics lineup. Certain states, there's certain restrictions on what you can say about fulvic acid, so we don't actually make any claims on the bottle. It's a fermented soybean extract that also has some sources of leonardite in it. Leonardite is known to be a source of fulvic acid. So fulvic acids are low molecular weight humic acids. I like to think of them as like transport molecules. They help get nutrients and certain ions across the cell wall barrier. So they help bring stuff in where nutrients might not be as able to cross that cell wall barrier. The addition of fulvic and humic acids can be really helpful for increasing the rate at which your plants can uptake those nutrients. So plays really well with others, not just our own nutrient line. No.
Yeah, it's an important. I think it's something that a lot of people, don't even. I know people that I've, mentored and whatnot. When I mention it, they look at, they're like, they don't understand what it is, and I just tell them, I'm like, it's just gonna take the stuff and carry it up the stairs for you. You know what I mean? Like that's
a great analogy.
It's the easiest way to put it. I'm like, it's just literally like having a backpack, full of newts, and you're gonna climb them up to where they need to be.
It's like just hiring some moving guys or something.
Yeah, literally,
they're
like
doing a lot of heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, like people. These things are super important. Like when you look at a line. One of the first things I'm doing when I'm looking at lines is, seeing if they have A to Z, what's missing, and whatnot. And some of the first things I'm looking at is is those humics, that whole thing of them, because if they're not in there, one, I don't like to have to add a bunch of extra shit if I don't have to, but if I do, I want it to be something that's, that's, impactful, you know what I mean? Like, and stuff like that to me is a no-brainer because you can see the difference, of not using it and using it. You take two plants and start and don't use humics or anything on this side, and then the other side use everything, like that. That plant will rip the other one apart. You know what I mean? Like they're just you're giving it everything, So, let's see where I'm at here. Oh, wrong questions. Here we go. Well, we'll end with a couple of questions. So, with new growers, guys that really don't have a lot of grows under their belt, if they came to you and said, "Hey, look, Gary, I got some of your products, and whatnot. What would be the best, I'm trying to think of how to word this right. If they came to you and said, I've got this, and this, would you rather them go with the feed schedule and then, work it from there? Or would you rather them, just, break it down themselves and learn the plant, learn the intricacies of it and tweak the program? Or would you rather just get them, listen, do it like this and, A to Z?
So I recommend some rough general guidelines for newer growers. You definitely want a grow and a bloom. If I was to recommend a couple of products to growers, like first it would be the Probably the easiest one for soil would be our Roots Original soil. If you're looking for a little boost, the Lush is a great option. So, don't get me wrong, I love all the other soils too. But for an indoor grow, first-time grower, I'd say probably Roots Original or Lush. And then I'd recommend the Terp Tea Grow and Bloom. And then I would recommend that they alternate between feeding and watering. And then first is that you wait about 2 to 3 weeks before you actually feed. All too often, folks transplant into an amended soil, and then they think that they're going to be really kind to their plant and start feeding them right at transplant. And that's not something that you want to do. You're kind of killing your plants with kindness at that point. You're giving them a nutrient overload. Our Roots Original and our Lush, to even more of an extent, pack enough nutrition for, in the case of Roots Original, about 3 weeks worth of growth or so. And with the Lush, it's 6 to 8 weeks, depending on like the transplant size that you're moving up to. So, once you get through that phase, alternating between feeding and watering, I think that's really important to kind of get the most out of your plants. At some point, you're going to learn that, hey, there's some instances where I could actually feed twice in a row, and I could do a feed water scenario and kind of boost that uptake from those plants, giving yourself bigger, better plants. But start basic. Starting with feeding and alternating with watering the next time your plants need liquid. Typically like a couple 2-3 days, depending on the transplant size.
So looking ahead, is there anything that's exciting that you're seeing, as far as the future of organic cannabis cultivation, or do you think it's, run its course? Do you think there's more to offer?
I think we're just getting started, really, on the organic side. I think what happened, with this legalization across the country, we've seen a ton of commercial grows that are trying to lower their bottom dollar. They're trying to lower their cost inputs, and so they're resorting to salts that may or may not grow their plants well, but ultimately, in most cases, they're ending up with flower that does not taste good. It might look good. It could even smell good, but there's, the proof's in the pudding when it comes to smoking that top shelf herb that you see at your local dispensary and it tasting like garbage, versus like, you've ever grown some plants in your backyard or something, and with most home growers, they want to stick to organic. They're not necessarily concerned with, lowering their cost per gallon down to a nickel to feed their plants or something, where commercial grows all too often are. And I think that it's coming back. People are starting to add to their salt programs products like our Terp Tea Bloom to bring that flavor back, because it's something that they lost along the way. So I don't think organics has really even gotten started yet, because we haven't had the opportunity to have real high shelf or top shelf flower available from commercial cannabis growers at this point. I'm not trying to throw any digs at anybody.
No, there's very few running organics, bro. There's very few commercial guys running organics, man. It's just like you said, the cost is, it's not there when the owner wants to, push a nickel a plant, So it's not feasible. But the guys that do, it instantly. You know what I mean? The guys that are pushing that, that organic grown herb, and it's like I said, there's only a few. Immediately when you open up that bag, if it was, you know what I mean? Because salt's a terp killers, in my opinion. You have to have really good genetics. You have to have a really good salt. Like there's something, a lot of the salts out there are just, in my opinion, they're crap. They're literally, it's just, picked off a wall. Let me get like a McDonald's number 2, let me get a number 2, and we'll call it, Bubba Ray's, you know what I mean? Like, it's literally like that, and there's very few quality salts out there, and a lot of them that are out there are just terp killers. You know what I mean? Like they are, they like you said, they call for something else, like the throw, at the end of the day, they're throwing a rescue line to the terp tea. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
So to me, it's counterintuitive. In a way, if you're gonna spend all that, watch your nickel and dime, and all start to finish, and then you're gonna end up where you should have started anyway. It don't make
Yeah.
it's crazy, and they wonder why they only can get 200 a pound. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that kills me. It's like
I think
if you wouldn't be getting $200, $300 a fucking pound if you were growing, fire herb, like organic. There, I don't. It's one of my peeves, man. It annoys the hell out of me because I hate dispensary weed, bro. Every time I've gone to the dispensaries to get something, it's just the worst gag. It's terrible.
Isn't part of the problem a lot of guys are reservoir fed, so it's tough with organics in a reservoir, right?
Certainly. No, definitely for certain commercial applications, some organics don't make sense. I get it. Drip lines and, it's hard to run stuff that has particulate through drip lines. So it's more like, the small batch style gardeners where it makes the most sense. But if commercial growers are able to adapt and, figure out a way to incorporate hand feeding, once every couple weeks, I think that it can make tremendous differences in the quality of the flower that they produce in the long run.
Especially if they're running it, especially even if they're running like cocoa and stuff like that, like that's the perfect opportunity in my eyes, because even if you're using like you have the res and they got drippers and everything like that, you could come along and just hand feed that right in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't. That to me, that would be pretty much one of the, off the top of my head, one of the few, ways you could really do it. You know what I mean? Like other than that, like you said, emitters are going to be disasters, and whatnot. And plus, a lot of guys are running sterile to begin with, so you start monkeying around with that inside the, oh my God, what a mess, So,
So I mean, to wrap it all up, I think, organics has a bright and shining future. I mean, so far this year, I'm knocking on wood here. The cannabis industry has been in a slump, since the COVID days. And we're starting to see signs of growth. And so I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but so far things are looking good this year. And we're excited that the cannabis community is, starting to focus more on organics. And I think there's a lot more to come for sure.
I think that, like I said, I've been, I always do both. I'll do, my organics and I do with salt, and you just can't beat it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it might take a little longer, but like you slow cook a brisket, for 12 hours. That brisket's delicious, succulent, aromas, flavor. You slap that thing on a grill at 400 degrees, and and char it. It's nowhere near the same. You know what I mean? So to me, slow is always better. In anything.
So Dave, there's been studies done to high brix plants that are like, above 12%, and one application of like cheap salt nitrogen knocked the brix levels down below 9%. Just from one application, just from one single application.
That's insanity, bro. That's insanity. You work on building those numbers up. You know what I mean? The higher that is, the better that plant's going to respond to a lot of bullshit. So to have to fight that, because what are you going to do? Obviously, as that stuff starts to dissipate or whatnot or feed in, that brix level might rise back up again. You're doing something to get it to rise again, and what are you going to do? Come back and just hammer it away?
You can cheat it with aminos and stuff like that, but yeah.
Well, that's one thing that what do you call it? That I don't know if we mentioned before, Gary, with the Bioforce. It's loaded with aminos too, isn't it?
Oh yeah. There's tons of beneficial amino acids in there. I forget the total count, but it's got a good source of almost all of the amino acids that are bioavailable. I think there's like 20 naturally occurring amino acids. It's got almost all of them in there.
Yeah, see, that's huge, dude. To me, in my, where my brain starts going, that's amazing. So I'm going to close it out with this one question, because we're running, an hour and a half now, and I don't want to hold everybody. So for anyone just starting their journey with Roots Organics, what's the one mindset they need to succeed, or what's the one mindset that you would say would give them the most success?
Go into it with an open mind. I think, for somebody that's new to Roots Organics, that's maybe never grown with organics before, you might have to adjust your expectation on the pace of growth if you're like used to a hydro situation and moving over to soil, but know that the proof is in the pudding. And and the final quality of the flower that you get out is gonna far surpass anything that you've probably grown in the past.
Oh hell yeah, dude! You know,
Yeah.
that's 100%. You know, I think anybody who hasn't tried it should try it. You know, you can find it pretty much almost anywhere on Amazon, HTG Supply. You know, you pretty much Google it and you will have just an infinite amount of places to find it.
Totally.
Like we said earlier, if you can't find it in your area,
your local grow shop too. I mean, sometimes you're in a place that you're too far away or something like that, but those local grow shops need your support. It's easy to help out Mr. Bezos and order on Amazon, and by all means do it. But at the same time, like, you know, give your local grow shop a call. They might have what you're looking for in stock, and you might be able to get it quicker.
And if they don't, grab the card, grab the information, pass it along. You can always email Gary. I'm gonna put. I'll post. I'll post the Roots thing. Like I said, just hit the contact us on rootsorganics.com. Gary fields those questions on Instagram. Also, Gary fields those questions. So if you need to reach out, this is who you're speaking to. You're not getting a call center in Calcutta. You know, it's Gary. You know,
Nope.
Yeah. You know, so dude. As always, man, it's a pleasure to chill with you, brother.
Hey, appreciate it, guys.
You're a brain, you know. I absolutely love having you on, bro. I learn something every time, you know. And like I said, you're always welcome to come. You know, when the new products pop, you know, I would love to do a show and see what's coming out, you know. But you know, and remember, guys, it's on the East Coast now. So if you're not seeing it, you know, grab those things and get them to Gary. Any questions about the terp teas, ordering, if anybody wants bulk soil, you know, if you you know, he can point you to where to get it in your area. You know, the zip code finder on the website. There's a ton of ways to really batten down and get you what you need. You know what I mean? So, man, I appreciate Gary. I know you just you got some stuff going this week, so man, I'm glad you got in with us, dude. It means a lot to the community, bro. You know, the community loves having you on, dude. Every time I do the episode with you and people watch them, they hit me up and they're like, man, I love watching these, you know, because it's your product, bro, you know, and some guys don't, you know, and you see it immediately, you know, so it's
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's really nice coming from you, and you know, always a pleasure to be here and talking shop. I mean, this is what it's about right here. So,
yeah, man, you know, and when my blueberries done, or that I'm, or actually when the root beer is done that I'm growing with the roots, I'll let you know and see if we can slide something out to the west for you.
Yeah, we'll take note of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so, that's that plant that was like crazy blowing up. You're sending me photos of, right?
Yeah. I actually I had made a mistake with it, dude. Like I had mixed up the two batches because I'm running the hydro and I'm running that. So a mistake was made, and it was that the hydro feed went into there, and that shit is, you know, it's you know how it is. You know, yeah, it's the ppm, everything's just fucking through the roof, you know. So I put it in there, and it wasn't when that particular pheno don't like an early hit of bloom. So she responded a little bit to it, you know, but she snapped out of it. Bro, the terps are fucking outrageous on this thing, you know. So
that's great.
I'll put it like this: the yield took a hit, but right after that, I cleared her out and just, you know, and then just kind of eased her in with the terp teas, you know, with the bloom, and then I pushed some boost. And man, I'll tell you, bro, the fucking terps from this thing, it stinks. And you could take these buds right now and probably slap them against the screen, and they would stick. You know, they're just violently.
Hell yeah.
You know, so I'm stoked, dude. So, you know, sometimes mistakes happen, but, you know, if good things come from them, I'm all right with it. You know what I mean? So,
heck yeah.
But I'll definitely be getting something out to the coast for you, brother. You know, and Charlie, Ryan, man, thanks for hanging, as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, bro.
We'll be back. I don't know if we're doing Sunday this week or not. We'll figure that out probably the next day or two. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. It's one of two guys. I had to play like the wild card because they both have like a tight schedule. So It'll be one of two people. I'm not going to announce it yet, just to make sure I which one it's going to be. But it's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool one. You know, something way left field. You know, so. All right, guys. Well, Gary, again, man, thank you, brother, and I'll be in touch soon, man. You know, and have a great season. If you know, everything.
We'll be in touch. We'll be in touch for sure.
Yeah, of course. You know, but I just hope everything keeps going, man.
Yeah.
You know, so. All right, guys. So everybody out there in the audience, we'll see you again in 2 weeks. I'll be posting who we have on, and good night, guys. All right, we'll be talking to everybody soon. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everybody. All right.
Have a good night, guys.